Hi guys, so first thing we do is now we take off the old exhaust on the bike. It's rather simple. First thing we do is we'll take off this cover, and after that cover is removed, we loosen the header bolts, then the mounting bracket, and then we can take the whole bike off. So let's start with the cover. For this we need an Allen bolt, and here are 4 screws. You need to take out all 4. The order doesn't matter, they're all 4 the same. So I'm using an Allen key, and we're taking out these 4. Just put them aside, they're all 4 the same. It does not matter if you mix them up. Bottom. Okay, so now we can take off this piece and put it aside together with the screws. So now to remove the rest of the cover, we need to take out this bolt and that bolt down here. That requires a 10mm socket, which I'll get very fast. So take out this one. So first one, that's a bit tricky, not much space. Yeah. Okay. Another one on top, and after you remove these bolts, you can take off the cover. The cover is clipped in the back in 3 places, so you need to apply a bit force to take it off. And here's the cover. So you can see there's 3 clips. You need to make sure that you don't break them off, so don't apply too much force, don't be too rough. These clips, they go into this rubber mounts on the bike here. The one on top, on the side, and on the bottom. Okay. Now we proceed and we take off the header flanges. For this we need a 12mm socket with an extension. And that's, you need to go here, below the radiator in, and here you can see the bolts, and I'm just taking these out now one by one. At first just loosen them, don't take them out completely. So it's a bit tricky because the space is very narrow. Just go in with the extension. My extension is a bit short, with a bit longer extension would be actually even easier to do. Now they're loose. Now let's take them off completely. That's the first one. Second, and you see, little mounting plate already comes down by itself. That was the third one. And the last one is in the back. The last is a bit tricky because the little water tank is just directly next to it, so it's very little space to go in there. And it's really hard to reach. Let's try it once. Let's go through here. So this one is really the tricky one here. I guess you can't see it now, but because it's on the back. But this one is hard to reach, little space. At best use a long extension. My one here is a bit short. Go in and then it can take out the nut. Okay. The second plate also came off. Both plates are not longer attached. What we do now is we use a bit of cloth, just random cloth, it doesn't matter, and put it below the exhaust here over the frame rail. That's to prevent the parts from getting scratched later when I take off the exhaust. I want to prevent that the exhaust hits the frame and scratch it. So just put a bit soft cloth or paper, cardboard or something like this in there to prevent the parts from being scratched later when you take it off. Okay. Now we go on to the last step for the removal, and we again use the socket wrench, this time with 14 millimeter, and we remove this bolt here. This bolt holds up the muffler. Don't take it out completely, just loosen it first. Now it's nearly gone. Now we can nearly take off the exhaust. We still have to unplug the O2 sensor. This is this plug here. Pull the plug off. It's mount. Okay, so I took off the plug from the little mount here, and now we unplug it. There's a little latch here inside. You go in with a little screwdriver, you lift the latch, and then you can pull out the plug. That's the lead which goes down to the sensor. We still disconnect this bolt here because this bolt also holds up the lead to the bike. Take it off. And now we can remove the sensor with the exhaust. Later we reinstall the sensor on the new exhaust. We just take it off right now because it's much easier in this way. If we would try to unscrew the sensor and then leave the sensor on the bike and remove the exhaust, there's a very high risk we damage the sensor or the lead, and then it's getting really troublesome. Last step now is I get a bit of cardboard box which we put below the exhaust to make sure when it comes down it doesn't damage. This piece here, and now we go to the big step. We take it off. I hold it with one hand and undo the last bolt here. And you can see already it already came loose up front by itself. That's why I put the cloth there, because now it's completely loose. We can just take it off. And now we remove the original exhaust. There's one little more thing to do. We now remove the O2 sensor here because we need it on the new exhaust. So you just unscrew it with 17 millimeter, and here you go. That's it. Very important thing to say, make sure you don't get any dirt on top of the sensor. No oil, no grease, no nothing. Keep it clean, just keep it like it is. If you put any dirt on it, especially oil and grease, the sensor won't read properly anymore in future. You have a big problem. Okay, so now we start to fill our new Highwayman exhaust. I show you the parts first. The set consists of one exhaust muffler with a heat shield, one nut, two springs, and of course the two header pipes. Be careful during installation, they're not the same. These two pipes are different, you need to really have a look where they go. Which I show you now is actually the first thing we do. If you see, one is a bit longer than the other, and the longer one goes, and I'm watching it now on the inside, on the gear shift side, and the shorter one goes here on the side with the brake pedal. We start to fit these now. First, I'll get the 4 nuts which we removed earlier. These are the original nuts which we took off earlier, and we start fitting now the longer header. You see, it's quite a bit longer than the other. We fit the longer header to the cylinder on the inside. I put the nuts on just hand tight at the moment. There's no need to tighten these right now. Also, one more thing. You should exchange the exhaust gaskets. These ones are usually, how to say it? You can reuse them. It will work, but it might leak a bit. So you can get these gaskets from Kawasaki for like $10. Is that? Get new ones, put them in. You won't regret it because it makes sure the exhaust won't leak at all. So the first one is now loosely fitted already. Still can move a bit. It's hard to reach them back here. My hand is big, the gap is small, so it's a bit difficult. So you can see it's hand tight fitted, but I can still move it. That's important when we fit the muffler later. If you make it too tight right now, you have a hard time to get it on. So now I do the same with the second header, the shorter one. Also again, I just slide it in and then start to put the 2 nuts on, hand tight. First one is on, second one. That's really tight. Again, I only make them hand tight, not overly, so it still moves. It still moves quite a bit. It's not too tight. So this already gives you a rough idea how this is going to look later. Also notice here that the 2 headers are not on the same height. The outer one is a bit higher, the inner one a bit lower. This gives you better ground clearance when you're riding. So as we have the headers in place now that's the difficult part. We need to slide the muffler onto the headers. It's a pretty tight fit, so that's not too easy. You need to make sure you get it exactly in place, and then get it on. Tap a bit with your hand or a small mallet, and now it's roughly already on, but the difficult part now is that you need to align it correctly with the mounting bracket in the back. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm twisting the 2 headers until everything lines up, and that's a bit of pain because everything moves, nothing is tightly in place. It's roughly in place. Now I'll take the original bolt, that's the original one which we removed from the old stock exhaust, put it through the hole, slide it in, and now that's important. You need to use a nut on the back that's different than the original one. The original one had the nut directly welded on, our one does not. We provide the nut with the kit. You need to take this nut, go on the back here of the frame where the bolt comes through, and then you put that nut on there. I'll just make it hand tight also. Again, we're still not ready completely, so hand tight. You notice here's something missing. I haven't installed the O2 sensor, I just get it very fast. With our exhaust it's really simple. You can install the sensor like it is now. you just screw it in. Okay, tighten it a bit, 17 millimeter. And now we need to reconnect it to the wiring harness. You push the cables through here, up on the side, and then we can plug it. But before we plug it, I'll get this little bracket which we took off earlier. I'll get that very quick. That bracket holds the sensor in place. The sensor lead, not the sensor itself. Put it over the cable, in place, and then the bolt goes through there. Let's tighten that. It's 10 millimeters. Okay, you remember, guys, I took off this plug from the little bracket here where it was originally mounted. That's because this cable is very, very short, and with the new exhaust it would be too tight if you leave it here. So you take that one off its original bracket, then you can plug the two together and it's perfectly fine. That's why it's important to take it off. So now the exhaust is actually already roughly in place. What we're going to do now is we tighten all the bolts, and we start with the ones at the cylinder head. So you need to use a 12 millimeter socket, and I'll start with the ones here. They're still pretty loose. I hand tighten them first. First two. And that one is a difficult one. Okay, so now they're hand tight. Now I use my socket wrench and tighten them completely. There's very little space here. I suggest a much longer extension than the one I'm using here because it just makes the job so much easier. Okay, first header is tight. I'll proceed to the second one. Okay. Now the four headers are tight, and of course my socket fell off and wasn't there. Okay. Next step is to tighten that bolt. On the back you have to use a second wrench to hold the nut, otherwise it would spin and you couldn't tighten it. So I'm using that wrench to hold the nut on the back, and I'm tightening the bolt on the outside. Okay. And now we come to the part where some of our customers struggle a bit because it's a bit tricky. We need to install these tension springs. Actually not too difficult. You put them in, hold them tightly, and that's it. And now the important part comes. Look, I'm now going to close these hooks a bit. That prevents them from coming loose. If you don't close them like this, they'll just pop off during the riding. That's just troublesome. So the first one is on. Let's put the second one on. Put it in. Hold it. Pull. And that's it. And then close it. Doesn't need to be completely closed, just a little bit. It's enough. And we're done. The exhaust is on the bike. We just need to put the cover back on, and then we're ready with the job. I'll get the cover and I get the parts very fast. Okay, that's the cover with the original screws. At first, we put the plastic part back on and just push it back into the rubber grommets. Three, one here, and one here on top. Okay. And yeah, the sensor lead should go inside, not outside. So, okay. Now, the two bolts, which we took off earlier. One, second one. And last step is this little cover to complete the look again. Four screws, just like before. Same way we took it off. Okay. There's no need to make them overly tight, but anyways, no load on them at all. And we're done. The exhaust is on the bike, everything is installed, and we go out now for a little sound check. So we just run it a bit and give you an idea about how this sounds. Okay, let's go.